everyone, and welcome to Inside Out Studio's second live art mini. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use a toilet paper roll to make your very own springtime flower drawing. So let's get ready to make some art. I'm Amanda Joy. I am the creative arts specialist at Inside Out Studio. I've been with the studio for about 6 years, working side by side with artists with disabilities, and it is an amazing job. I get to see artists have breakthrough creative moments. I get to see artists sell artwork for the first time and really feel the pride of that. If you've never done that before, it's an experience that's not really like anything else. Having the ability to make something that someone else would appreciate enough to buy is a huge sense of pride for someone. So I just want to encourage you, if you have the time and resources, to be able to visit our online store and check out some of the artwork the artists from Inside Out have made in the past. Please do it. The link is on our website, and we'll also put it below in with this video. So this week, we're not totally live. This is pre-recorded. But don't be afraid, I'll still respond to comments. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. So if you're ready to make some art, give me a wow face, give me a smile, give me a palette, some kind of comment like that, just to let me know that you're ready to go. So for this project, you're gonna need a few things. First, we're gonna need a piece of paper. White piece of paper, it can be cardstock, it can be a sketchbook, anything that you can draw on that's safe to draw on. The second thing you're gonna need is a pair of scissors. You're also gonna need your toilet paper roll. And if you don't have one readily accessible, maybe just go check your house, see if there's one you could neatly pile the toilet paper next to so you can steal a little roll, because this is gonna be what we need for this project. So here, let's get started. So with your toilet paper roll, the first thing you're gonna do is flatten it. So we're gonna make 2 creases so that it becomes a smashed flat toilet paper roll, like this. You can set it down on your table and kind of push it to get it flat. And then you're gonna take your scissors and we're gonna cut little strips or rings. So about 1/4 inch, the thinner, it's gonna make it a little bit easier to work with, but not super thin. So you want something kind of like this that you've just cut off. I'm gonna cut a couple more, especially because I have a little bend in my toilet paper. So I'm gonna try to get this side that's a little bit flatter. So I'm gonna cut a few rings. And as you cut the rings, if it's easy enough for you to cut, go ahead and cut the whole thing and try to get the rings kind of in the same width or similar width. Doesn't have to be exact. You don't need your measuring tape here. So I'm just cutting this down into strips until I have a pile of strips. So I'm going to take you down here to show you what we're going to do. So we have all of our little toilet paper pieces here. And I want to show you first one thing you could do with these. This is not the activity we're doing today, but it's just a little something that you could work on if you have an abundance of toilet paper rolls in your house. So we're going to be making a flower today. We're going to be drawing a flower. We're going to be using this as a stencil for our little flower petal leaves. As you can see, it kind of looks like a flower petal shape. Another thing you could do with this is make a flower by gluing these pieces together. So you could kind of arrange this, and as we arrange this is kind of how our drawing is going to work too. Arrange these like little flower petals, and you can kind of shape them and open them so they kind of have a similar shape. So if you arrange them so they're all pointing, they have a center point in the middle. See how it makes a little flower? So what you could do if you have glue accessible, I have some here, you could glue these on either end and stick it all together, and you would have like a 3D little flower. And depending on how many toilet paper rolls you have, you could keep going with this to make almost like a mandala shape. If you felt really like you wanted to go with this, you could make it into a nice little wall hanging. If you look on Pinterest, there's lots of ideas for how to work with that. So that's just one little idea and to give you a sense of what our flowers are going to look like. So we're going to set these aside, and you're going to grab one stencil for now. Now we're going to call these our stencils because that's what we're going to use to make our flower petals. And you want to get some colors ready. So I suggest using 3 to 5 different colors. I'm going to use 4 here. These are the ones that I picked out. So you want to use markers, or you could use colored pencils. You could use crayons, whatever you have accessible. I like to use kind of a combination of all 3. So I have my markers here. I'm going to start by choosing one color. What color do I want to use? I'm going to use purple. And then I'm going to find about the middle of my page. And I'm going to make a dot like this. So that's going to be our starting point for our flower. Next, I would choose your darkest color first. And we're going to start making our little stencils, or flower leaves. So you want to start on the dot. You want to put your stencil so it's lined up and touching the dot just a little bit and coming straight off. Get your marker ready. We're going to hold this down with 2 fingers. We're going to take your marker inside and just kind of go crazy, drawing all around. You want to make sure you get the points of the shape and do a little crosshatch, go one way and then go the other way. And there we have one flower petal. So we're going to go around to our next. Drawing in, doing a little crosshatch just to give it a little more texture. Make sure you get your points. And if you miss anything, you can always kind of go back and add to it. I'm going to keep going around. So we're going around in a circle around that original dot, and that will start to make it look like a flower. And when you sit down your stencil, you want it to overlap with the last petal just a little bit, just so they're touching. Don't forget your points, but you can really kind of go crazy in here. But like I said, I like to get a little cross hatch just to give it a little more texture. This one I forgot my cross hatch, so I'll add it. And again, I'm gonna put that down, hold it down with 2 fingers, and kind of go crazy inside there, making sure to go a little bit cross hatch. Forgot my point here, so I'm just gonna add it on. And also these kind of get bent out of shape a little bit as we push on them. So you do have a stockpile that you can switch out for a new stencil anytime you feel like yours is getting a little bit stretched out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Hold down my next one, make sure it's touching the center dot and a little bit of the last flower. And color in it, make sure I'm making sure to get the points. And our crosshatch. Excellent. So next, I think I'm actually going to move on to a colored pencil that matches. It's similar to this color, sort of like a turquoisey color. It's one of my favorite colors. He's trying to use some bright springtime colors. And now I'm gonna take the stencil and I'm gonna go, and all of these, there's like little V's from where your other petals in the middle of this. So you're gonna take your stencil and we're gonna line up there a little bit. You want it a little bit overlapping with each of those petals. If you can see that, hold it down. And we're gonna go to town with our colored pencil. And see how I like to mix those? It's the similar colors, but just a little bit different. Just gives it a fun little, almost a little bit more professional look. Finding those matching colors in different mediums. So, gonna continue going around here with my stencil. This one I forgot the point, so I'm just gonna add it on here. And if you're having trouble coloring and these kind of holding it down, if you have somebody around that could help you out, maybe help hold while you color, teamwork makes the dream work. So as I go around just with this one shape, it's starting to make a flower. Give my little crosshatch lines in there if I forget to put them in. So also this, you want this stencil to just barely, you want to start where these two intersect, like right here, so that it overlaps a little bit, but it's starting to build your flower out. And as you're doing this, just remember to breathe. Sometimes we can kind of get tensed up when we're doing something new in art for the first time. So it doesn't have to be perfect or symmetrical because all flowers are a little bit different. But the main idea is that we're taking the same shape and we're going around in circles. So now I'm going to choose a color that's a little bit lighter. I think I'm going to go with my lime green. I'm going to grab a stencil. Now we're going to go for the next, going outward away from the center of the circle. We're going to go for these other in-between places to put our next petals. And we'll actually be able to fit two in between each of these. The last petal that we did, we're going to put two inside here. So find that little V. Here are the little V's. There's right here, there's a V, right here, there's a V. That's where we're going to put the petal, the stencil next. So lining up inside that V, holding our stencil down, and our color inside. And you can go, yeah, what's going to happen? You can go around the edges if you want, so that you get a sharp line. You also can just color in and don't worry about outlining it. You can do that however you want. So lining up in our V, just overlapping just a little bit with our inside petals. So our flower petals are just radiating outward. The flower's getting bigger and bigger. And they can be really, really quick colored in areas, or you could take, you know, as much time as you want to really fill that in solid. That is up to you. I think it looks good. It has a lot of texture if we just kind of, to be honest, scribble inside of it. I like the texture that it creates with all the lines going different directions. So we're just going around in a circle. Make sure to breathe, drop our shoulders, just so we're not, this is an enjoyable process and not something that makes us tense. Like I said, new art projects can be kind of intimidating at first, but once you start to try them more and more, you get more confidence. You might be able to hear my dog snoring in the background. Okay, so here's the flower so far. And we can keep going around as much as we want, keep filling out the outside. Now I'm gonna go back in and add some details. I'm actually gonna use a black marker just so it really shows up. So the next part are really decisions that you get to make however you want it to look. I'm gonna start by outlining some of these shapes. So I'm gonna start in the very first round I did. And I'm gonna outline those petals. Just going on one side and the other, sticking to the shape that I've already drawn there with my stencil. And now is where it can be a flower, but we can make it a little bit more of like a mandala shape. So I'm gonna do on the tip of all of my circles, I'm gonna do, flower petals, I'm gonna do some circles. Got ahead of myself. I'm gonna draw a medium-sized circle and then a little circle out like that. So I'll do one over here, a medium-sized circle, and then a little one at the tip of each flower petal. So my design is starting to take a little bit more of a mandala or design instead of looking like a traditional flower, but you can do it however you want. On my next flower petals, the next step out, I'm gonna do some little kind of like rays coming out from those. So you just kind of decide if you want dots or lines or outline, and go around to each flower petal in that group going around and do the same thing. It's kind of a little bit like a meditative process. I like things where you go around kind of repeating the same motions. My dog is snoring super loud. You could probably hear that. Okay. So I've got that. I want to do one more thing at the top here. I think I'm going to take these. I'm going to do some little lines going like this. So I'm outlining and then I'm kind of continuing that same shape by adding stripes on the inside. Can you believe we did all of these shapes just using a toilet paper roll? And like I said, you can always take those little toilet paper rolls, your little slices, and make a 3D flower. And on this one, I left the middle color here. These petals are pretty plain. And I think it's good to mix up some areas of like a lot of lines and dots and some that are a little more neutral. And if you want, you can take this design beyond with just some lines, continuing that repetition. So on the end of all of these, I'm going to do a medium dot and a small dot, medium dot and a small dot. So the most important thing here isn't that you are really good at drawing, it's just that you are repeating the same kinds of shapes and lines going all the way around in a pattern. And that by itself makes a nice drawing. You don't have to be particularly skilled at looking at something and being able to draw it. So that's where I'm going to stop for today. On this one, you could continue, you can add a background, you could go crazy with it. So have fun with this. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy this project, I'd love to see a little flower comment. Let me know what you thought, if you thought it was hard or easy. Let me know if you have some other ideas on what you could do with toilet paper rolls. let's get creative. We have the time. So thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed teaching this class today and last week. I just want to let you know that starting next week, our art education coordinator, Stephen Smith, is going to take over our live art minis. I'm going to take a little break until we get back in the studio and the studio opens back up after all this pandemic business is blown over. I can't wait to make more art with you. I really appreciate you checking in today and doing some art with me. I had a blast. And until next time, happy art making from Inside Out Studio. Just a little reminder, next week, Stephen's art lesson is going to involve a collage. So go ahead and gather up your newspapers or magazines, things that we could cut out. Get those on the ready. Same time, same place next week on our Facebook page, 1 p.m. on Wednesday. We'll see you then. Thanks.